Once upon a time, in a hip suburb full of minimalist cafes, vegan burger joints, and yoga studios, there lived a young woman named Tinderella. Her name already sounded like an app, and somehow that fit perfectly. Tinderella lived with her stepmother and two stepsisters, who loved nothing more than posting selfies, playing influencer, and chasing every trend social media spat out. The house was a one-woman set for their never-ending stories. Makeup brushes, ring lights, and half-empty bubble tea cups littered every corner. The Wi-Fi practically glowed from their non-stop live streams. The stepsisters spent their days testing filters that made them look like anime characters with lip fillers. They'd haggle for hours over the perfect caption for their posts, only to end up with blessed underneath anyway. Tinderella, meanwhile, had to handle everything that wasn't Instagram-worthy. The housework, the dishes, taking out the trash, and above all, the Wi-Fi, which regularly gave up the ghost the moment both sisters tried to upload 4K videos simultaneously. "Tinderella, my reel isn't loading," one shrieked, frantically tapping her screen. "And I need Wi-Fi right now, or I'll lose my algorithm boost," the other wailed in a panic. Tinderella just rolled her eyes. She was used to everything in this house falling on her shoulders. Glamour, self-promotion, or even having a life of her own were foreign concepts to her. Her clothes came from second-hand shops, and her entire makeup routine consisted of a single mascara that had long since passed its expiration date. But despite all the odds, she had something the others lacked: common sense, a sense of humor, and a quiet longing to escape this social media madhouse someday. Her only connection to the world outside was Lena, her old friend from university days. Lena studied fashion design with a specialty in drama, and was the only one who took Tinderella's situation seriously. They met in secret at a rundown backyard cafe that was so unhip it didn't even have its own Instagram account. "Girl," Lena said one evening over an overpriced matcha latte, "you need to get out of there. They're sucking the life out of you like a bad filter sucks the color out of your skin." "Where would I even go?" Tinderella asked wearily. "I have no money, no connections, and no portfolio of aesthetic sunset photos." Lena grinned. "But you have me, and I have an idea, but you have to promise not to call me crazy right away." Tinderella raised an eyebrow. "That depends on whether it involves cryptocurrency." "Not directly," Lena said mysteriously, "but it does involve a party." One evening, preparations for the big VIP influencer party were in full swing. The host was none other than Prince Charming, son of a real estate mogul, famous for spouting borderline motivational quotes on talk shows. The stepsisters whirled through the house like they were in a trance, swapping every accessory 3 times. Dresses flew through the air, clouds of perfume hung in the rooms, and the click of high heels on the laminate echoed like a countdown to self-promotion. Meanwhile, Tinderella sat alone on the couch. She knew she wasn't invited, but that didn't bother her. Instead, she opened Tinder, hoping to escape reality for at least a brief moment. Left, left, left again. Dog in sunglasses? No. Gym selfie? Absolutely not. Looking for a wife for life, but please max 55 kg, sounds like someone's missing a kilo of brain mass. Then her thumb stopped. Prince C97, a perfectly tailored suit, a dazzling smile, hair that looked like it had its own PR agency. His bio read, "Investor, visionary, future thinker. Swipe right for a fairy tale." Tinderella snorted. Future thinker, so, someone who stands in the rain without an umbrella because he believes in the cloud. And yet, maybe out of defiance, maybe out of boredom, maybe a mix of both, she swiped right. It's a match, naturally. Quick break before things get completely out of hand. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments which classic fairy tale we should reload next. Now, let's see what happens when Tinderella actually swipes right. Before she could even think, the first message popped up. "Hey, you're different from the others here." Tinderella stared at the screen. Wow, that sentence has about as much depth as a puddle after a summer rain. But that evening, hemmed in by dirty coffee mugs and the eternal hum of her sister's ring lights, she decided to play along. She typed back, "Different from what? The average filter or the average man?" The reply came instantly, "Both, you write like you think, that's rare." Tinderella had to smile. Maybe he wasn't completely hopeless. Maybe he was only partially hopeless. While the sisters hastily left the house, heading to the party in dresses that had more sequins than fabric, Tinderella was still glued to her phone. Then a push notification appeared. Upgrade to Tinder Premium for one night, only €29.99, and find your match today. She laughed bitterly. Even fairy tales have subscription models now. But no sooner had she clicked than an invitation from Prince C97 popped in. He could add her to the guest list. For a split second, she hesitated. Should she really? But then she remembered how the sisters puffed up when they mentioned their follower counts and how much she longed for an evening where she wasn't just fixing the Wi-Fi. So she decided to take the plunge. She texted Lena, "I need a dress, and I need it fast." Lena replied with a voice message that sounded like she was about to explode with excitement. "Girl, I sewed you a dress 3 weeks ago. I knew this day would come. Come pick it up. You'll never look like a meme in high heels again." When Tinderella saw the dress, she caught her breath. It was breathtaking, a deep blue that looked like someone had turned the night sky into fabric. But it was also incredibly uncomfortable. The seams dug in like tiny needles, and the matching glass slippers were less a fairytale accessory and more a guarantee of blister plasters the next morning. "Why does beauty have to hurt?" Tinderella asked. "Because otherwise people wouldn't know you mean business," Lena said with a wink. "And because I've watched too much Netflix. Now go, and if that guy gives you any trouble, you have my number." When Tinderella entered the villa, she was greeted by a world that was as dazzling as it was absurd. Champagne fountains burbled, a pool full of inflatable flamingos served as a photo backdrop, and the DJs moved in sync to beats that came 100% from a Spotify playlist. The stepsisters were already stumbling through the crowd, every glass of champagne just another accessory for their authentic stories. They posed by the champagne fountain as if it were the fountain of eternal youth, captioning everything with phrases like "so blessed" and "living my best life." Prince C97 stood in the center, surrounded by admirers who celebrated his every hollow word as if it were a revelation. He was just talking about disruptive synergies in the metaverse when his gaze fell on Tinderella. And then the unthinkable happened. He put his phone away. Perhaps that was the greatest declaration of love he could ever make. "Wow," he said, "you're different." Tinderella smiled wryly. "Oh please, you've rehearsed that line 100 times. Are you going to patent it someday?" He laughed, and this time it didn't sound like a rehearsed corporate chuckle, but genuinely surprised. "You have humor. Not many people appreciate that about me." "Maybe because you never let them get a word in," she shot back, taking a glass of champagne from a passing tray and taking a sip. They danced, they talked. At least he talked for hours about NFTs, startups, and his vision to save agriculture through blockchain. But this time, Tinderella listened more closely. Beneath all the nonsense, something sometimes shone through. A boy who could never please his father, who threw money around because he had nothing else, and who really just wanted someone to truly see him. "And why exactly blockchain?" she asked. "Because it sounds modern, or because you really believe a digital ledger can cure your loneliness?" He was silent for a moment, then he said softly, "No one ever asks me that." "Maybe you should let yourself be asked more often," she said. There was something, a brief, genuine moment. Charming's smile softened, and for the first time that evening, he didn't look like a pitch deck on 2 legs. Shortly before midnight, her phone buzzed. "Your free Tinder Premium subscription expires in 5 minutes." Of course, Magic had user agreements these days. Tinderella glanced at the clock. She thought of Lena, of the shared flat, of the trash that needed taking out tomorrow, and of Charming, who was just starting a sentence about disruptive innovations. She grabbed her bag. "I have to go," she said. "Now, but the night is just getting started." "Exactly," she said with a sly smile. "And I like it when an evening ends well before it overstays its welcome." She disappeared into the crowd before he could protest. In the scuffle, she lost one of the glass slippers. She didn't stop. No one voluntarily walks through a party full of drunk people with only one shoe. But Charming picked up the shoe, held it aloft like a trophy, and swore to find the woman it belonged to, filmed by at least 10 smartphone zombies. Tinderella saw it later on Instagram. She shook her head and texted Lena, "This guy is holding a shoe up to the camera. I can't even." Lena replied, "Cute, but also a little creepy. Want me to say something?" "Let him, he'll figure it out." The search for Tinderella was, of course, not quiet or discreet, but played out on social media. Prince Charming launched a multi-part story series. "I found this shoe, swipe up if it fits." Hundreds of women responded, many just for a chance to appear in his story. The stepsisters squeezed their feet so brutally into the slipper that it looked like they'd been playing origami with their toes. They posted dramatic videos with tears in their eyes, tears that came more from pain than from emotion. But not a single one could actually put the shoe on. And then, an unexpected twist, Lena showed up in Charming's DMs. Not to pose as the mysterious woman, but to send him a message that threw him off balance for a moment. "Hey, Prince, I'm the friend, the one with the dress. Are you really looking for the woman or for the next story highlight?" Charming read the message, twice, 3 times. He wrote back, "What do you mean?" "I mean, do you know her name? Her favorite movie? Why she laughed when you talked about the blockchain revolution? Or do you just want the shoe and the fairy tale your algorithm sold you?" He had no answer, and it gnawed at him. Of course, he couldn't resist turning this into a business model too. He unveiled his latest coup, glass slipper coin, a cryptocurrency he touted as the digital counterpart to the true fairy tale. Investors were meant to believe that happiness and romance could finally be tokenized, and that profit could be generated from them. For a while, it even worked. Followers invested, media reported, and Charming basked in the glow of his own hubris. But 2 weeks later, the project collapsed, the money vanished, and the community was left one lesson richer. Charming, however, coolly declared that the market was simply not yet ready for innovations of this magnitude. But in the weeks that followed, something happened that he hadn't expected. He thought about her asterisk, about her crooked smiles, about her question of why blockchain. He texted Lena, "What's her real name?" Lena replied only, "You'll have to ask her yourself, but you don't need to bring the shoe, she's not into glass." In the end, he still showed up at Tinderella's door. No castle, no carriage, no cameras, just a slightly rain-soaked guy in an expensive coat who looked like he'd just made his first real decision in life. He knocked, she opened. The shoe fit perfectly, as the fairy tale demanded, but that wasn't what interested her. With gleaming eyes, he said, "I've been thinking about how to say this, but I never learned how to be honest. So I'll just say it now, I have no idea who I am without all the crap, but I'd like to find out. And I'd like to find out with you." Tinderella looked at him. She remembered his endless monologues about startups, his empty promises, and his digital currencies. But she also remembered the one moment when he'd actually listened. Then she laughed. "You know what, Charming? I'm not swiping left on you, but I'm not swiping right either. I'm swiping pause until you've learned that love isn't an algorithm." He nodded. It wasn't the fairy tale he'd imagined, but it was real. And so she didn't move into a castle, but into a small, chaotic shared flat where there were never any champagne fountains, but plenty of honest conversations, loud laughter, and the feeling of being truly herself. Lena moved in too. The place was big enough for 2 drama queens and a sewing machine. There, Tinderella founded her own startup, a dating app based not on staged photos, but on humor, irony, and genuine communication. The app was called Wordplay, and its slogan, "Swipe smart, not hard." Within a year, it became a hidden gem for everyone tired of filters and crypto princes. The stepsisters, they became influencers with 12 followers and complained loudly that the algorithm was oppressing them. They tried to clone Tinderella's app, but failed because they would have needed actual ideas. Prince Charming, he turned up in a documentary about failed crypto projects, charming as always, but no longer relevant. Once, he sent Tinderella a message, "Your slogan is better than all my pitch decks. Thank you." She replied, "It comes from the heart, no upgrade needed." And Tinderella, she lived happily. Not forever, because forever is an Instagram lie, but on her terms. Free from mortgages, empty conversations, glass shoes, and above all, free from the urge to impress someone who couldn't even say her name properly. Sometimes, at night, when she looked out the window and saw the city's blue glow, she thought about that evening at the villa. And then she grinned. Because the real fairy tale wasn't the prince. The real fairy tale was that she'd found herself, between 2 swipes, a good friend, and a life that needed no filter. Liked Tinderella's story? Then show some love, like follow and comment below. What would your fairy tale app be called? I'll read the best ones.